Hi, my name is Bill Butler, and this is a tutorial for people who really don't know much about how the internet works or how computers talk on the internet. We're going to start by drawing parallels to common everyday things that you understand, and this is just the first in a series of videos I'm going to release, and I hope it helps you understand how computers talk on the internet. For those of you who are extremely technical and have been dealing with TCP/IP for a good portion of your life, this probably won't be very helpful. But for those of you who like metaphors or like to sort of draw parallels to things you understand, I think this will be helpful for you. So the first thing we have to understand is that the internet is comprised of computers, essentially servers, clients, all types of different machines, some that house data, some that want to acquire that data when you're in a web browser. So essentially, just like people, in order to talk, we have to agree on things, right? If you're listening to me right now and you're listening to me across a medium, happens to be air. The speaker in your computer is transmitting these sounds across air, and they're reaching your ears. You also have to understand the language I'm speaking. So even if that sound was coming across and I wasn't speaking English, you couldn't make sense out of it. And then subject matter, last of all. So we'll get into each one of these points to help you understand how computers interact on various ports. So the medium, how does the conversation get from you to the other person? In this case, it's air. Humans converse over air because sound waves from our voices travel through the air. For whales and dolphins, water is the medium that they've adapted to, and in outer space, sound waves can't travel, but light and radio waves can. So medium is the first thing. You've got to have a way to get the communications from A to B. Language. In order to carry on a conversation, we have to speak a common language. English has become a very common language across the world, probably because of commerce, capitalism. But in the same way that English has become a standard, TCP/IP has become a standard for computers. So it was in the past, there were a variety of computer protocols. There was BIOS, AppleTalk. The list goes on in terms of the varied languages that computers would speak to one another. But one of the breakthroughs for the internet was that TCP/IP was sort of standardized on and viewed as sort of the English, if you will, of the internet. So beyond language, it gets more specific. Most people are used to HTTP as far as a topic, but let's talk about that in terms of something you might discuss with your friends. When you start talking about music to somebody, your brain tunes into that. All of a sudden, when you start talking about music, you start thinking of the rhythm and the cadence or the genre, or you think about the artist, the song, the album. You are receptive to those to a musical conversation because you have a framework, a context with which to discuss music. HTTP, which is your typical web browser, is very much the same. There's a language that is framed around HTTP, and it knows how to embed a picture, and it knows how to embed a video. It knows how to make a word bold or make a paragraph or put objects in certain places. And so they've agreed not only on the language, TCP/IP, but on subject matter, such as HTTP. Some other examples of subject matter are less obscure things you may not have seen. Well, calendaring, for instance, has a specific protocol for it. Email has IMAP, POP3, SMTP. It has its own unique context for dealing with things. FTP, SFTP is used to transfer files to and from. So each of these subject matters runs on a port, essentially, and and understanding how these ports work and how these protocols work will ultimately will be our ultimate goal in future lessons. So just to kind of tie it all in, air. For us to have this conversation about music, we have to have air, which is is basically the medium, TCP/IP. I'm sorry, air would be closer to your Ethernet cable or wireless, right? That's the air. The next thing would be TCP/IP, which is equivalent to English, and then HTTP, which is equivalent to music. So your medium, your language, and your subject matter. So just to recap, computers have all the same rules as people when establishing conversations. We have to share these common things. TCP is the universal language of the internet, and HTTP is an example of a specific topic commonly discussed over TCP/IP. And with that, I'll end this, and we'll go into ports and understanding how ports present themselves on computers, how firewalls block out communications from other ports in another episode. Thanks for listening.